And the reason that a lot of women don't have this is because intimacy really requires being honest emotionally. It requires vulnerability. And there's a lot of women, especially high achieving women, that don't feel comfortable being vulnerable. They don't feel safe enough to do that. Welcome to Life and Love by Design. I'm life and relationship coach Odette Coronel. This podcast is for individuals and couples who are done living on autopilot, who are ready to understand the patterns shaping their relationships, their choices, and their sense of self, and redesign them with purpose and intention. Here, we don't just talk about what's hard. We name what's actually happening beneath it and what to do about it. And if you start recognizing yourself or your relationship in these conversations, know that this is the exact work that I do with my private coaching clients, individuals and couples who are ready for real change. Because a meaningful life and connected relationships don't happen by default. They're designed. So let's begin. Welcome back to Life and Love by Design. My name is Odette Coronel, and I want to start today's episode by asking you a question. What if the thing that you're craving the most in your relationship isn't really more time? It's not better communication. It isn't even love. And what if I told you that if you doubled your intimacy, not just physically, but emotionally, mentally, energetically, then everything changes. Your relationship shifts, your body softens, and your nervous system regulates. Your confidence expands, your energy returns. And for many women, it really feels like you're coming back to life. But before we go any deeper, I want to make this really tangible because the term intimacy is kind of abstract and we're not always sure what it means. And we're not always clear on how to tell if we're increasing our intimacy or not. So let's figure out how to measure your level of intimacy. I want you to ask yourself right now, on a scale of 1 to 10, how intimate is your relationship right now? Not how it looks, not how long you've been together, but how it feels. So if you decide that it's between a 1 and a 3, that means that you're feeling disconnected, you're feeling distant, maybe you're feeling lonely. If you decide to rate between a 4 and a 6, then you're feeling functional, right? You're fine, but something is missing. If you decide to rate it between a 7 and an 8, you're feeling connected, but maybe not deeply. Maybe you want deeper connection. And a 9 or a 10 would feel fully expressed and deeply connected and really emotionally safe. So now here's the question. If you're at a 4, what would it be like to be at an 8? And if you're at a 5, what would it be like to be at a 10? That's what I mean by doubling your intimacy. Not about perfection, just expansion. And intimacy is not just sex, and it's not just spending time together. It's not, we get along. That's not what intimacy is. Intimacy is being deeply known and deeply met. It's when you can say what feels true to you and then you feel seen. You don't feel rejected. You feel like it's received with love. It's when you don't feel dismissed or judged. So a simple way to think about it is intimacy equals truth plus safety plus connection. So truth means you're actually honest about how you feel. Safety means you're not afraid of the response and you feel like comfortable saying what you feel. And connection means you feel understood, you feel safe, you feel met, you feel seen. So an example of low intimacy might sound like, how was your day? Fine. Okay. High intimacy might sound like, I had a good day, but I'm feeling kind of overwhelmed or I'm feeling kind of off lately. See, the first one is just information, right? You're just sharing information. But the second one is access. It's deeper. It's really showing them how you're feeling emotionally. What I see very often with couples or with people that I work with is you bring something up and then it turns into tension. So then the next time you just don't bother. You don't say anything at all. Or you're sitting together, maybe you're even in bed together and you're sitting side by side, but you're just kind of scrolling or you're doing your own thing and you're not really connecting or paying attention to each other. Or if he reaches out to you and then you pull away. And you do that not because you don't love him, but because you're just not feeling connected. And that lack of intimacy can feel really lonely for both of you. And here's where it gets deeper. And I know that I talk about this very often, but it's very real for women. Your hormones are changing. And these shifts impact your mood, your desire, your emotional sensitivity, and even how stressed you feel and your response to stress. So when intimacy is low, you don't just feel disconnected, your body actually feels unsafe. And when your body feels unsafe, you become more reactive or you become more anxious or you just shut down altogether. And you don't just disconnect from your partner, but you disconnect from yourself as well. And let's talk about what it actually costs you, not just emotionally, but physically and psychologically. Research consistently shows that people that are feeling emotionally disconnected in their relationships have higher rates of depression, of anxiety. And when you're feeling chronic relationship stress, that increases your cortisol levels, meaning that your body actually stays in that stress mode. And low intimacy is actually linked to poor sleep, weakened immune system, increased inflammation, higher risk of cardiovascular issues. And studies on long term couples show that emotional disconnection can have the same impact on your health as chronic stress exposure. So there are physical health reasons why it's important to work on increasing that intimacy in your marriage and your relationship. If you're doing all the right things, you're showing up, you're holding it together, you're being capable and responsible, and yet something in your life and relationships or your marriage still feels off, then give me a few seconds of your time because this message is for you. Relationships don't usually fall apart because of one big event. More often, it's the small everyday moments when we stop being intentional, or we stop really listening, or we stop choosing connection. Those are the things that create distance over time. I work with thoughtful, high functioning individuals and couples who aren't broken, but they're feeling disconnected or misaligned or just wondering how they got here. In my coaching, we slow things down. We try to understand what's happening beneath the surface. We identify the patterns that are shaping your relationships and your choices, and then we intentionally design what comes next. So if you're listening and you're thinking, this feels like me, that's not an accident. I offer a complimentary relationship and life alignment audit. It's a focused 45-minute conversation where I'm going to help you gain clarity and identify what comes next. You can book your session by visiting odettecoronel.com. I would love to connect with you. And of course, the research also shows that emotional disconnection is a great predictor of separation in marriages or relationship. Lack of intimacy is going to lead to decreased attraction, increased resentment, and emotional withdrawal. And all of these things are not good for your relationship. So it might look like, arguing over small things, or just feeling drained after every interaction, feeling less patience with your family, with your partner and your kids, and feeling like you're carrying the emotional weight alone. These are all the consequences of having low intimacy. So if you can move from a 4 to an 8 or a 5 to a 10, everything changes. Conversations become easier. Conflict becomes productive and not destructive. Attraction returns, and you feel like partners and lovers again. When intimacy increases, your oxytocin levels go up, and that's that bonding hormone. And your cortisol naturally goes down. That's the stress hormone. You literally feel calmer, safer, and more connected. You feel less anxiety and more emotional regulation, and you feel supported instead of feeling alone. And of course, your energy level goes up. You feel more alive, more open, more creative, and more present. And when you're not feeling emotionally drained, you can think more clearly. You can make better decisions. You can show up stronger in your work or in your other relationships. And the biggest one is that you stop overthinking, you stop overgiving, you stop walking on eggshells because you feel safe. You feel more confident in who you are and in your relationship. And the reason that a lot of women don't have this is because intimacy really requires being honest emotionally. It requires vulnerability. And there's a lot of women, especially high achieving women, that don't feel comfortable being vulnerable. They don't feel safe enough to do that. And it also requires letting go of control and trusting yourself and trusting your partner. Most women weren't taught how to do this. So doubling your intimacy is not more talking or more time or more effort. It's really just more truth, more presence, more emotional courage. And I'm going to say something that I said in a prior episode that is a big reality check for most of us. The average life expectancy is around 76 years old. So, how many years do we have left? How do you want to spend those years? Do you want to spend them feeling disconnected and settling and just kind of going through the motions? Or do you want to feel more intimate, more fully expressed, having an intimate, beautiful relationship with your partner? So, if your intimacy score right now is at a 4 or a 5, you don't have to just accept this. Because when you double your intimacy, you don't just change your relationship, you really change your entire life experience. So if you're ready to create that level of intimacy and connection in your relationship and in your life, that's exactly the work that I do in the Next Level Woman Life and Love by Design experience. You can book a complimentary one-on-one consultation with me because the life that you want is on the other side of deeper intimacy. If today's episode described you or your relationship, then this is your moment. You don't need more information. You need a new way of living, choosing, and relating. And that's the work I do with individuals and couples. If you're ready to stop repeating the same patterns and start designing your life and relationships intentionally, visit the link in the show notes and book a complimentary relationship and life audit. Remember, your life and your love are yours to design.